Is a 7-year-old running your life, your business, your career, and pretty much everything else in it? It seems a strange question, and it doesn't have to be 7. It could be 5, it could be 9, it could be 13. But this is a really common problem that most people don't realize they have. And therefore, if you don't realize you're doing it, it's pretty hard to change, and it's hard to move forward and do the things you're capable of doing. So the reason this video is here, this training is here, is to help you understand that people's results, people's life, people's careers, money they earn, even relationships, everything can be massively controlled by the thinking that we create at a very young age. And that's why we say the 7-year-old or the 9-year-old. So let's explore this, because if you're holding yourself back, if you're thinking, knowing you can do more, but you're not letting yourself, this is probably what's happening. So a large proportion of who you are and how you think is created at a very early age. And people think that they go to work, they have their business or whatever it is they're doing, and they think solely from the age you are now. I'm 53 at the moment. But a lot of what my life is based on and how I behave is from when I was very early. Now, to illustrate that, to make it simple to understand and how obvious it is when I say this, if you learn to ride a bike, you probably learned to ride a bike at a very young age. I was probably about 5 years old. That is the instruction that's in my head from the age of 5 that I still use to this day. Now, I might be more skillful, I might have more stamina or less, but I learned the understanding, the principle of how to ride a bike way back then. And what the brain does, it uses the frameworks of what we've learned when it thinks it's useful all through our lives. So it hasn't said, I want to relearn how to ride a bike. It said, you learn to ride a bike, you can ride a bike, let's carry on using that framework. So therefore, what you are taught at a very young age can easily influence everything you do throughout your whole life. And this is what happens when we get in the way of ourselves. We unconsciously sabotage ourselves because we create excessive fear, doubt, and a lack of confidence, often from stuff that happens a very long time ago. The vast majority of the people I work with, and that's the 40% of people who significantly get in their own way, it gets started, the vast majority, 90% of the time, is before really before they were 20, but most of it is before they were even 10 years old. So this is incredibly common. It's an accident. It's what happens. But we need to know this so you can fix it. And this is most frequently caused by a reaction to childhood conditioning or a critical event that from your past that your brain went, oh, I better think about how to deal with this in the future. And that's the decision that you made back when you were a kid can be there influencing you all the way through, right up till now. So let's give you a few examples. So, really common one, beliefs around money from parents has a major influence on a child's mind. So if you were, for example, taught money makes people bad, bad people have money, then you were taught that by an authority figure, by a parent. Even if it was an accidental thing, that it only has to be said once and your brain says, oh, I can't be a bad person. Therefore, you won't allow yourself to have money. So I remember working with someone quite recently who capped their earnings because they didn't want to be thought of as being greedy, because too much of anything makes you greedy. And they converted that into money in their minds, and too much of anything, can't have too much food, can't have too much of this, can't have too much money, and they capped their earnings. And they were sabotaging it. They knew they were doing it, but they couldn't stop. They just kept doing it again and again and again. They had this ceiling of a limit they put in place because at some point in their childhood, and we identified when we worked with them, and it was like, wow, I just didn't even know I was doing that. Is that where all this has come from? And people lose thousands in salaries, or in this case, in terms of client commissions, because something in their childhood just said you can't have too much money in this case. So people put an invisible cap on their earnings later on in life. It's one of the most common ones I help people work with. And they're just blown away because often they have no idea where it comes from because it's way back in their dim and distant past. This is my one. This is the one I had. I got told off in front of my class. Or not just told off, I got screamed and yelled at by a teacher for something I hadn't actually done. So I was 5 years old. I was like in absolute shock, being shouted at for something I actually hadn't done. It was the teacher had lost it for some reason, started screaming and shouting at me. And the terror of being told, that I'd done something wrong and a letter going home to my parents, and just what would happen if my parents knew, even though I hadn't done anything, made me the shyest, quietest kid in school. So that held me back from putting myself in a position where I would get judged or criticized. Now, one of the three most common fears is being excessively judged or criticized. And this is why people don't like getting up on stage and speaking in a public arena, public speaking, because the fear of being laughed at or judged, in my case, being shouted at and humiliated in front of my peers, it was terrifying. So it changed my character. And it wasn't until I was in my early 30s that I dug in and realized I was doing it. Didn't even realize I had this problem. When I did, it was like, where did that come from? Wow, all the way back when I was 5. So that cost me a huge amount in terms of opportunities to do things, joining with people, joining in team sports, massive amount in my business, because guess what? I didn't like to do marketing. Do you think I'm fixed now? I think I'm okay now. So this was my young brain at the age of 5 just saying, that was such a horrific experience. Never put yourself in a position where that'll happen again. So that was my sabotage thinking. So have you stopped yourself from moving up the career ladder, achieving goals, asserting yourself, building your business, improving your finances? Could be almost anything. Because often we take this thing that we think is so important, so useful, and we apply it to many areas of our lives. Sometimes we're selected though, and that's really interesting. Sometimes people can be very, very successful and they let themselves be successful in one area, but in other areas, they don't. Now, there'll be reasons for that, and it's actually quite easy to find why that is. It's actually easy to find what it is that you've got going on inside your head as well. It doesn't take long at all. I usually do that in the first 2 hours with a client. But what have you stopped yourself from doing and achieving, which you know you want to, but you just won't let yourself? So how much of your unconscious limit yourself due to past events, a thinking from your childhood getting in the way? So while these events often happened 20, 30, 40 years ago, and this is common, working with people with this is common. It doesn't matter how long ago it was. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it and what it's caused. It's actually, it takes the same amount of time to fix. It's just a process. They're still playing out in your business and other areas of your life right now. If you've got a conflict, an argument, knowing you could do more, you want to do more, you need to put your prices up. You need to be able to tell people how good you are. You should be going for that high level promotion. You should be starting your own business. Even going, asking somebody out on a date and you won't let yourself. This is a really common, these are common things we deal with. And to be honest, we end up dealing with lots of things, both business and career, where even though most people come to us for business and career reasons, we always end up dealing with other areas of their life too, always. Because it's one thing from the past, no matter what it is, how long you experienced it as a child. You might have had repeated incidents of not very nice stuff. You might have had one incident like me, which was just horrific. Or the interesting thing is you may have no idea at all. You had a great childhood, everything was fine, but you still have something that's holding you back, which you've done for years, and you know you've done it for years, but you just don't know why or where it's come from. That doesn't matter. We can solve all of those things. We've had experience many years doing that. Doesn't matter if you don't know. Doesn't matter if you've had it multiple times. Doesn't matter if you only had it once. If you want to put the child's thinking that's controlling your business or your career or anything else out of the way, turn that off, then it takes about 4 weeks. And we call it the Alpha program. It's for people who want to achieve good things, but they just won't let themselves. So if that's you, please get in touch, because I promise you, it's so easy to get through and deal with, much easier than people think it is. So if you've done this for 20, 30, 40 years, compared to 4 weeks, that's a good thing to be able to do. I promise you. And it's one of the most enjoyable things that we do, because as soon as you take that foot off the brake, it's amazing what you allow yourself to do, because you just want to already get on and do it. You know you're capable of more. For some reason, though, you just won't let yourself. And that's what we're good at turning off. That's the Alpha program. Perhaps we'll speak to you soon. I hope so. Take care, and I hope this has been useful to you.